And good evening, and welcome to the Icecast Live. And good evening, Ollie McManee. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, Shane. How are you, sir?
I'm not too bad at all. I've been looking forward to this show because we've got quite a character on tonight. We've just been warming up pre-show, and already
I did. He was shy and retiring. I heard it's gonna be like squeezing blood out of a stone. Getting any conversation out of this guy.
Well, let's see, shall we?
Let's find out. Let's find out if we only last an hour or whether it's one of those ones that go on.
Oh, well, it could go either way, I think. I think it could go either way. So our guest tonight is previous Marvel and DC artist and now self-proclaimed independent publisher, Rich Perotta. Now, I hope I'm saying it right. I hope it is Rich Perotta. There are two T's, so I'm assuming it's
Rich Ricotta.
But you never know with these Americans, you know, they don't.
These goddamn Americans
they don't spell properly.
Come over here, steal our independent comic business.
So, without any further ado, Sam, can you run that VT? Welcome back to the Icecast Live, and welcome, Rich Perotta. Am I saying it right, Rich?
You are saying it right. You are like one of the first persons in like decades to say my friggin' name right, because it's always Perotta or pierogi or something like that, or ricotta.
Indeed.
Like some people. Well, and some people also say ricotta. You know, I don't know where anybody gets that. You know, why would anybody ever say ricotta when it concerns my name? I don't get it. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I'm a New Yorker, and I came to invade Britain with my independent comic book ability, drawing stuff. You know, I mean, you guys did try and take our independence from us, so I figure, you know, I might as well come back here. And you did send over the Beatles and the Spice Girls. All right, so come on, you know, the fair trade. You know,
hold on. We also sent over the Rolling Stones.
We did.
That's true.
Yeah, that.
So is this? So we are paying
fair
for
trade.
The Spice Girls with you, right? You're our punishment for the Spice Girls.
I love. Yeah, the Spice. I am the penance. I am your penance. This is what happens when you send the Spice Girls to hell, and then I pop out, and here I am with my Brooklyn Dalek. You know, I got Vinny. This is Vinny, the Brooklyn Dalek here. Yeah, look.
It looks like a Vinny.
How you doing? Like it is. It looks like a Vinny, especially with the hand stuff. Yeah, this is like, hey, exterminate this right here. Exterminate this. I'm gonna put my plunger right where the sun don't shine. Yeah, that's it. I'm rolling here. Look, elevate, elevate this. This is how you do it. Up and down, not back and forth and stuff. I just got a warning from my lady. She's like, stop shouting. And I'm like, all right, I'll shut up. Well, so anyway, yeah.
The reason you came over was your lady, yeah?
Yeah. It couldn't have happened at a better time. The timing to get here couldn't have been better. I got here 2 weeks before quarantine.
Oh, so you haven't been over to Britain for that long then, in terms of years?
I've been here just about 2 years. February 29th. Well, March 1st, if you really want to go by the Gregorian calendar, whatever. It will be 2 years that I'm here. But I arrived here February 29th, 2020.
So you've not really had a chance to. Sorry,
yeah,
you've not really had a chance to explore British culture, then, have you?
I have. Well, I have. During the many releases of lockdowns and all that other lovely jazz, we've managed to jump from, you know, her brother lives in London. Excuse me, her mother lives in Wales. You know, so we've been to these places far more than once, and we just came back. We went to Cornwall. We went to Bristol. We went to Brighton just recently to see her her twin brothers. One of them I'm meeting for the first time ever, and after 2 years, you know, it's like. But yeah, I've had a very, very good experience living here. really, truly wonderful experience living here. So far, so good. And even in some parts that are going to be bad, who cares? There's always bad and good, whatever the hell you do.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me in the slightest.
No,
and I lived in New York all my life. I mean, born in Brooklyn, lived in Staten Island, lived in Queens, lived in the Bronx, worked in Manhattan. I saw everything, done everything. It's like, you know what? That's it. I've had it. I've done enough. Where I'm good. And I came here, and then plague. So it's like, all right. Not only did I bring meat, not only am I the penance for the Spice Girls, but I also bring pestilence. Isn't that wonderful?
Well, thanks for that, Rich.
Oh, you're welcome. Hey, glad to be of service.
So what do you make then of this indie scene in the UK? Have you explored it much? Have you met many other creators in the scene?
I've met a few of them, and quite frankly, I'm blown away by the amount of people here with the talent and the quality of art that everybody has here. It's different from American comics. My comic style is I'm trying to adapt in different ways, like trying to make it somewhere in between, but it's different from the American version because American comics are rather loud and they're big and flashy, and they're kind of, I mean, I'm not trying to criticize anybody that I know back in the States, but I find the indie circuit here a lot more potent because you don't have the presence of Marvel and DC here on a constant basis. But my first professional art job was Marvel Comics, and they were located at 387 Park Avenue South in Manhattan. So it's like, and I lived in Staten Island at the time, so I'd take the ferry I would take the bus to the ferry to the train, which would drop me off right outside of Marvel Studios. And I worked there for a good couple of years, and then I became a freelancer, and I worked there for about 10 years. Wow, and they're still located in New York. I think they're in Midtown now.
That's a pretty long tenure at Marvel, isn't it? Especially by today's standards.
I was very persistent, very persistent. A lot of people what happened was a lot of people decided to just stop. There were a lot of people who just decided to stop doing what they were doing. And I got in and I made sure I made my presence known everywhere that I went. And I worked on a few series. I did a bunch of one-shots, and you if you keep pushing yourself and keep making yourself known, eventually people just start calling you and you just do the work. It took me about 4 years to get a good rapport with a lot of the editors there. But once that happened, it did not stop until everybody decided to leave. I mean, the only reason why my work stopped in Marvel is because a lot of most, if not all, the editors that I worked with went to greener pastures. And no one knew who I was anymore. So I'm like, okay, time to go.
That seems to be a common thread with a lot of people we've interviewed over the months and years.
It is.
It seems to be very much a editorship. If they've got great relationships, you will always be invited back. And then, as you say, when people go, no matter how much of a veteran you are, how much you've tried and tested yourself, sometimes that's just not enough.
It's not enough. And sometimes what happens is that's usually a very good time for a transitional period for another artist to show up that they can hire, quite frankly, at a cheaper rate. And a lot of artists, unfortunately, there are a bunch of artists who really think of themselves a little bit too highly of themselves. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve the accolades. They just don't deserve the praise that they think that they constantly deserve. Right. And because as an artist, in this industry, it's a really haphazard, really, it's a touch and go industry where it's just, regardless of how great you are or the quality of work you put in, you always have to improve. You always have to evolve. You have to evolve with the changing times. You have to evolve with your art style. You can't be complacent and think that the thing that you're doing is going to carry you for the rest of your life. I mean, even the greats, John Byrne, George Perez, even Bill Sienkiewicz, their art matured. Jim Lee, the same thing. Their art matured over time. If you look at Jim Lee's art in 1992, when he started on Alpha Flight, and you put it to now, it's such a marked. It's him, but you could tell it's such a marked difference in style and texture and everything. Even Scott Williams, his inker, he would ink one way, and now he inks an entirely different way, but it's him.
Yeah.
It's like you have to continuously progress. And there's a lot of artists that I know of who don't like to progress. They think because this is a winning formula that they have, they'll keep doing it. And yeah, it'll work for about 3-4 years max. But if you don't change and you don't adapt, and if you don't network more and more and more, you're going to lose out, and it's just, it happened with me over at Marvel. And when I went to DC Comics after that, I was there for about a good 2 years, but that's when I was just inking the work. I wasn't really penciling or anything at all.
Right.
After 2 years of that, I was like, yep, that's it. I'm good. I climbed that mountain. I hit that precipice. No more inking. I don't care if they offer me $200 a page. Not doing it. Do not care.
You wanted, so at that point, you were really eager to tell your own stories, I guess.
Yeah. Well, my penciling skills, they suffered what happened was my penciling skills were good. They were good. I would probably be able to get like a one shot here and there just to start with. But when you ink as long as one person does, it's almost impossible to get anything else after that. Because there's a lot of inkers that I know of who are very talented pencilers, but they've made their bones as inkers, and it's like
you get typecast, don't you? I mean, there's so many great artists who only get inking work. It's unbelievable.
It's sad. It's really sad. Klaus Jensen is an amazing illustrator, but he's mostly known for his inking. It's terrible. So it's like that's why I jumped to the indie circuit, because I've been a pro all this time, a pro allegedly. But trust me, there's really no difference. And it's I honed my skill learning how to tell a story. Once again, I studied film. I didn't study like how to draw comics the Marvel way, because that's a joke. It's a joke. It's like superhero pose, angle. That's it. Comics are so much more theatrical. You have to think of a comic book as a storyboard with just different size panels. That's really it. And you try to tell it in a much quicker format than the storyboard would be. But, you have to bring a little bit of somatic theme into it, and then there goes the evolution of it.
It's more condensed than a storyboard.
Yes. Yes, it is. That's why.
Story, aren't you? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's how I learned to do what I do, and even then, after a while, I had about 7 consecutive years of consistent work, one way or another. And I had enough work that I'd be able to afford an apartment in New York City. So that's not bad.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. But as with all freelance things, they dry up after a while. So it's at that point, I just decided I wanted to do my own thing, and I did. I did. That was when I got here in 2020. About a month after I got here, I was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh wow, that must be
that sucked. And I mean, I'm free and clear now. The surgery was a success. I had the radiotherapy. I'm good. But when you have that in your head, thinking you're going to die, you're like, yeah, I'm just going to do this now. Let me just do this here. And I did. And that's when I showed you, Shane, when I showed you chapter 1.
Yeah.
And there's that. And I had no idea they would actually be liked by people. So they were like, where's number 2? And I'm like, am I allowed to use profanity?
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, okay, good. I'm like, oh, fuck. Now what? Like, holy shit. I actually have to put a... Oh, I was like, oh, great. I got to actually put a story to this. Fuck. I'm like, so I'm like, okay, great. And I did. And then I did chapter 2 in half the time, which was the biggest mistake I've ever done. It came out better, but I wasn't prepared for a lot of the stuff that I was doing. And I was like, oh man, I woefully underprepared for a lot of things administratively. But as far as this is concerned, yeah, this is my very first self-publication where I wrote, penciled, inked, colored, and lettered the book.
And if there was a soundtrack, you would be singing the theme tune, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times, a lot of times, especially when I was drawing, Chapter 2, I was listening to the soundtrack to Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh, really?
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, that replaced Superman the movie as my most favorite soundtrack ever in the history of soundtracks. It's just rousing.
It's an immense soundtrack, isn't it?
Yeah,
I found myself,
is.
funnily enough, I found
is.
myself listening to it just yesterday because I wanted some sort of background music that didn't have lyrics, but I wanted to be inspired. I had a book, loads of books to mark, and it's a very orchestral score, like a lot of them are, but it's certainly very heroic as well. So I can totally get where you're coming from in liking that.
I think it's one of the best aspects of those DC movies is the soundtracks. I really like the Man of Steel soundtrack. I thought it was
yes. Hans Zimmer's a genius, and Junkie XL really exceeded any expectations that I ever could think of when he did that. When he did the soundtrack for Zack Snyder's Justice League, blew Danny Elfman's crap right out of the water. I felt like I was watching a canceled episode of The Flash whenever they were fighting, from 1990. I was like, come on, Danny, enough. It's not Batman time anymore.
Music to the old Flash series. I'd forgotten about that.
He did. He did the music for that. He did the music for Batman.
Yeah.
And then the Justice League again.
Sony
Spider-Man. That's right, Spider-Man 2. That's right. And
Darkman.
I'm sorry.
Well.
He's got around.
Yes, he has. It's not like he's a bad composer. He's not by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that for a movie as serious and as and especially for the story that Zack Snyder constructed for the Justice League, it's like you need something that's not so upbeat, but triumphant at the same time, and that's what Junkie XL did. And I was just, I can't. It's like whenever the music comes on, spoiler alert, for when Flash saves the world. Yeah.
That's a great music. Yeah.
Oh God, I wish we saw that in the theaters. Oh my! I wish we saw that in the theater and it was released wide and there was a crowded house when that happened.
Yeah.
Oh God, I would have.
We'll ever get a theatrical release for that full version. It would be great.
It was quick. It was a quick release. I mean, it was mostly shown at home.
COVID release as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's like. It was released. It was released on what was it? DC Max, whatever it is, HBO Max.
All digital. I remember getting a copy on digital long before it even came out in Blu-ray.
It was Now TV here, I think, showed it.
Yeah, Now TV showed it. Yeah, we had a subscription for it for a short while, and I was like, oh, guess my ass is watching this fucking movie, and I didn't care what time it finished.
So
it was like.
Can we assume then, Rich, that you're a Zack Snyder fan?
I am. I'm a Zack Snyder fan to an extent. I mean, there's a lot of storytelling. You see, I don't know if I would use a lot of his storytelling elements as inspiration for anything that I would do. When it comes to that, I'm more along the lines of for me, I use a lot of Michael Mann type of shots, a little bit of Steven Soderbergh when it comes to the conversational things. A little bit of maybe even a little bit of Michael Bay or even John Woo, if you want to put it that way. But I wouldn't use Zack Snyder's stuff. I mean, he's great, but if you really take a look at all the stuff that he does, it's a lot of his directing is a little bit more than just pedestrian. It's something that it's something that the average person would put as a camera angle where it came to like things that don't have any type of like grave importance, but his action scenes are really good, but they're lifted from a whole bunch of things. And the only difference that makes his stuff different from everything else is the super slow-mo camera. And that's it. That's it. I mean, it's like after the projectile is blown, you see a really slow motion of the shell hitting the ground. And I'm like, well, we know what happened there. It's like, I was just like, it's not so bad, but it's like you expect that from directors who have the superhero type of thing. You know, I wouldn't ever count, as great as the Russo brothers are for the Avengers movies that they directed, and Winter Soldier, Captain America Winter Soldier, which I think is the best Marvel movie that they put out.
Yeah, me
the
too,
best. It was taut. It had the superhero element, but it was a spy thriller.
Movie. Yeah.
Oh, it was the best spy movie I've ever seen, made in America for an American audience. Truth to Power. That could have been a Bond movie at some point, or maybe a Bond movie, because I'm partial to Bond. Oh. But I wouldn't use the Russos as any type of inspiration when it comes to any type of directing or anything, or like trying to establish camera shots, because a lot of the shots they have, you're trying to get Marvel's very vanilla when it comes to that. You're trying to get everything in the shot. You're not functional
as well, isn't it? The Marvel stuff is quite
functional. It's functional. That's what it is. It's not like it's not daring. It's not daring when it comes to that. It's very rare that you have any type of superhero movie that was really daring. You know, when it comes to angles or when it comes to storytelling or vernacular like that. And Marvel's very safe. You know what you're getting, and you know you're going to see it. You're going to see the big explosions. You're going to see all this stuff happening, but you'll be able to see it completely clearly. You're not going to have any type of you're not going to have any type of thing where it's like you're just trying to guess. I mean, Zack Snyder did a little bit of that with Man of Steel.
He did, yeah. He did it more with the Army of the Dead, didn't he? Because he concentrated on just using 50mm lenses. So that's why on the extreme close-ups, it's really detailed. But then there's that fuzziness that I think really worked in that film. Different way for him to direct.
Yeah.
And I think
it's a departure from the way he used to direct.
Yeah. And I think because he was filming around COVID, he made that choice to just use 50mm lenses.
Right.
It worked. I think what happened was that everybody is used to him the way that he directs.
Oh yeah.
That's the only. I had no issue with that movie at all. I thought it was good.
I love it. I think it's great fun.
Anything with Zack Snyder, I will watch without any hesitation.
Dead, which really put him on the that aerial shot of the zombies running down the street, great. And then the car. I just think there's some very clever shots in that.
Yeah.
To have the balls to do a remake of one of the classic American zombie movies and pull it off by contemporary standards. I thought that was, it's still one of my favourite zombie films, I must admit. And the original Dawn of the Dead, of course.
Oh, yeah. Forgive me, I have not seen the original Dawn of the Dead.
No, right.
I know. It's my deficit. Yeah. I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
Oh, come on.
Right.
It's just one thing.
Next time we get another plague, that's what you have to put on your hit list.
I definitly will.
First strike.
Sorry. It's but I have to admit, I'm proud of Zack Snyder for doing that, for taking that departure from the way that he usually does films. Because I honestly think that he probably heard at some point, it's like all he does is just slow motion. It's like, well, I'm actually a good director. I'm an artist too, so I'm going to do it this way. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it was just such a jarring change for some people in the audience. That they were like, wait, what kind of movie is this? You know, it's this broken up, and it's like they're used to this way that Zack Snyder tells a story, in contrast to Dawn of the Dead, the remake of it, where a lot of people will see that it's good or a little bit less than good, but there will also be people like yourself, Ollie, that'll think it's magnificent. I am gonna watch it again because if you're seeing something that I'm not, I need to check it out again just to be sure of what I saw, because I liked it enough, but it didn't grab me like your average Zack Snyder movie. It really did not. And it's just that's what I love about, I mean, I again, a lot of stuff that Zack Snyder does is not used for any inspiration that I would use for storytelling. But man, can he direct a superhero movie or what? I don't care what anybody says. He is ridiculous. I mean, he really takes everything. He makes them look like comic book panels. He does. He really does. He fills that screen.
Right, because a lot of people obviously criticize the Watchmen movie, and I think some of the criticisms are fair, you know.
How so? Which ones?
But, well, I think sometimes how he sort of made the Watchmen characters look perfect. You know, they were always portrayed in the book as being very human.
Yeah, they were.
Especially Night Owl. You know, Night Owl was very human. He was overweight. He was he was unconfident. Yeah, in the movie, he was like this bodybuilder guy. It just I think that's a fair, you know, comparison and criticism. But overall, I think that Watchmen movie, despite the issues, is probably the most, you know, accurate movie of the Watchmen we're ever going to get. And I could see that, you know, Snyder was really trying to be faithful to the book in the way that he understood it. You know, at the end of the day, it's going through him, it's going through his filter, through his sensibilities. And I think it was, you know, I think he did a pretty good job. And I think overall, it was a pretty good adaptation. But I know a lot of people feel very differently about that.
Why do you think that? Aside from what you described to me, I mean, why else would you think that? I mean, because the only thing that I could think
I don't think any director would have got an easy ride doing The Watchmen.
No, I think that's
such a sacred text.
Yeah.
And don't forget, we could have had Terry Gilliam's version back in the 80s. So in my mind, I'll always think, what would Terry Gilliam have done? Because I remember at the time when he was sporting that Watchmen badge that came out that you could only get in comic shops. So, and being a big comic book fan himself, imagine coming off the back of something like a film like Brazil, him doing The Watchmen, even with the sort of limitations of 80s cinema, my goodness me, that's what we could have had. So anyone daring to do Watchmen with that idea in mind, and the fact that Alan Moore would never have sort of accepted anyone doing it, I think you're always on a sticky wicket, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I liked as far as the ending of Watchmen is concerned. I don't know if I'm going against type here. I actually liked the movie ending a lot better. It made more sense. Yeah, I mean, it made a little bit more sense.
That does split people. I mean, personally, myself, I wanted the squid. You know, because
the squid would have been just fine. No, I'm not saying that the squid would have been bad. The squid would have been just fine. I can understand from a storytelling standpoint why he did it, why he decided, because when the squid attacked New York and killed everybody in New York, the world was united. That's great. He decided to make it a little bit more practical by involving all the other major cities in the world and make Dr. Manhattan more of a common enemy than anything else, which, you know, to me, it's a slightly better ending than the squid, but I would have been happy with the squid because then I would have said that it's just faithful to the whole source material.
It would have been really faithful.
Never included the subplot of all of those creators on an island. See, that was out, wasn't it? The squid was created by the greatest creative minds in the world, because that wasn't in the Watchmen film, because even at 3 hours you had to cut something. What I like the fact is, right, we'll go down a completely different route. And, you know, taking on board what Alan Moore says, Watchmen works in the comics because he wrote it for the comic. So that squid reveal works. Yeah. It wouldn't necessarily have worked in the film, because I think one of the big things about that issue 12 is it's the aftermath. We don't see the attack. We just see the aftermath sprawled out. And again, that wouldn't have worked on film. So I'm with you, Rich. I do enjoy the film, I must admit. I think it's one of Zach. You know, don't tell me, no matter how hardened a fan you are, you don't get choked up when Rorschach is taking his vengeance out and then gets killed at the end. That's good cinema for you, and you can still feel emotional.
I think the portrayal of Rorschach was brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was the best part of that movie. Jackie Earle Haley was the best part of that movie. Yeah. The best part. He nailed complete Roy. He is to Rorschach as Robert Downey Jr. is to Iron Man. You can't put anybody else in the role of Rorschach. It's impossible. Impossible. He nailed it. Home run, grand slam, whatever it is, right out of the park. That was it. That was really it. Truly. Yeah, and the performances for the rest of the movie were pretty good too. I mean, I like Dr. Manhattan except for the blue penis. The blue. Yeah, well, it's the blue pendulum. You know, I mean, come on. Thank you. You know, so sorry about that. You know, and then Malin Ackerman, she's nice to look at. You know, I mean, she's okay, I guess.
Not the greatest actress. Yeah.
Well, she was quite, I take it she was relatively inexperienced as an actor at that point. That's all I can put it down to.
Yeah, I would think so. You know, blue
The
penis.
actress who played her mum was always going to sort of have a great scenes anyway.
Oh, she's hot. God, Carla. It was Carla Gugino, right?
That's her name, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's in quite a lot of films. Yeah, quite a lot.
Woo, that girl is stacked. Damn, that girl got them titties. I love them titties. I'm gonna grab them right there and go, ow! Squeeze.
That's the New Yorker in you speaking there.
Yeah, that's the New Yorker in me. Yeah, that's right. Hey, Carla, come over here. Let me grab your boobs. Come over here.
Anyway.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We talked a lot about movies there. Let's go back to comics. Yeah. So
boobs are great. There are boobs in comics.
With that one. I'm not going to.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
So you went from Marvel. You went to DC.
This is DC. Yes.
Yeah.
And
cool work. What was that like working at DC? I mean, you said you did most of the inking.
God, I had
some interesting writers and artists.
Well, the writer was, from what I understand, it was Keith Giffen. Now, Keith Giffen has been a mainstay at DC for like 100,000 years. You know, he's a class act. I met him a couple of times. He's a great guy. The editors, they were fantastic to work with. They were on my side a lot of the times because the penciler. Remember what I was saying to you about how they think that their style is just, well, this guy, the penciler, I don't really care if he hears me. You know, I've said it out loud anyway before. Chris Batista is a good artist, but he's not what he thinks he is. He has an issue with a whole bunch of inkers, and including me, and he almost got me fired off the book. And he sent pages to another inker against, behind. Yeah, he did. He sent pages to another inker behind the editor's back.
Oh,
yeah. No, you can't do that. That you can't go, regardless of who you are. You cannot do that. The editor apologized to me for that. And then told me under no uncertain terms that if this guy ever did that again, he would be fired.
Whoa, yeah.
And this has been someone who's been there for quite some time. Because I was working on this book in 2011, and he's been at DC Comics since 1993 or 1994. So he had like 15 years pretty much down the drain. And I have it's like everybody but him, I had a great time with.
I suppose there's always one, isn't there? I guess wherever you work.
Well, again, it's like there are just some people you don't gel with at all, and there's a lot of times when it's like there's going to be friction, especially between a penciler and an inker. Because a lot of times there's going to be times when the inker is not going to be exactly what the penciler is going to want. That's happened in my career a couple of times. More often than not, I've been praised and thanked for the work that I've done. You know, but it's the same thing all around, really, when it comes to something like that. But he wasn't. He was a friend at one point, but I think it just dissolved. And whatever it was just after that, we just worked with each other for about 5 or 6 more issues. And then that was it. And then I went on to something else after a while. But
it's tricky, isn't it? When you're doing something that's collaborative, you know, you're just not always going to see eye to eye.
Yeah, you're not. And that's the reason why I ink my own work. Yeah. That's really the reason why I ink my own damn work, because quite frankly, it's like, I've tried working with a couple of inkers, and to an extent, I have to take back a little bit of what I said about Chris, because it's like I can understand why, to an extent anyway, about how an inker can potentially mess up not even so much good pencils, but whatever you put down.
Yeah. If they don't see what you're seeing,
exactly.
You're not always going to get what you're trying to put across.
No, they're not. And these days, a lot with a bunch of inkers that I've encountered, I've actually had a couple of them scream at me, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding. Why are you yelling at me? And he's like, well, this isn't supposed to be this way. This is the way that I ink. Blah, blah, blah. You need to straighten your pencils out. And I'm like,
Do you think there's egos at play there? Sometimes?
I'm like, really? You know, it's social media has made monsters out of people, because it's like they truly believe their own hype. When it's like they put up they ink something from Joe Madureira, which is possibly the easiest person you could possibly ever ink. And he's told by about 50 or 60 people how amazing he is. And it's like, you're not. Sorry, you're just not. It's not even like it's a confidence thing or like me trying to say that someone's not good. It's just that unless a lot of times these days now, a lot of it isn't earned. And a lot of it isn't earned to an extent. You know, I cannot tell you how many times I've had to throw up a portfolio just to make sure that I would get work on a constant basis. All the networking that I've had to physically do instead of like type in Facebook posts, you know, just like something like that. It's like, and I'm not saying that there's bad artists there. They're not. There's plenty of great artists that I've run into. It's just that some of them believe their own hype, and maybe it's because of my age. I mean, I am 53, and it's like I started when I was young. I started when I was really young, and it's just like I grew up with a lot of these old pros, and I mean, my mentor Keith Williams taught me everything I know, and the guy's a good 15, 20 years older than I am, you know. And there's a lot of people that I grew up with, working with, that are now in their like 60s or even close to 70, and these guys are like old school guys. I got in at Marvel right in the transitional period, like right after like Image left, you know, and there was still a bunch of some of the old guard that was there, and it's like I learned from them, and it's like, I mean, again, I'm not trying to dispel anybody's work ethic or anything. It's just that it's a little bit different, and sometimes it's a little bit jarring to me as a professional. You know, I mean, I'm changing with the times, and I'm adjusting, but sometimes it's, you know, old dog, new tricks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We've had some comments in from viewers. Comic Talk with Pops Van Zant.
Yep, he's my partner.
You know this guy?
Yes, I know this guy. Rich is amazing. Who's Big D Wild? I hate you, man. Shut up, Pops. I hate you fucking guys. Fuck you, Pops. Fuck you in the ass. And all that other shit. Dry, raw dog.
We gotta know who Big D Wild is now.
He got Big D. He got the oh god, this is a thing.
Come on.
He's a co-host. He and I are co-hosts, but he's the host. I'm the co-host of well, we do a live draw stream every Sunday at 6:00. Well, 6:00 here in the UK. It's 1:00 in the United States. And we host the show called Monday Madness, where we showcase a bunch of people who are crowdfunding a lot of their indie comic books. You know, we get like 2 or 3 guests and we talk about them and all that other stuff. And disclaimer time. There's disclaimer time when it's like after a while, after a couple of beers or something like that, I throw out a great amount of filth, and then I have to read the disclaimer, you know, in whatever accent I choose to or what someone requests it. You know, it's one hell of a show, but we get to see a lot. Pops and I, we get to see a lot of really good up and coming artists on the American side, as well as the British side. There's a gentleman that I met at my first convention named Adam Smith. He hasn't done anything yet professionally, but this kid is one hell of an artist. I mean, the detail that he puts into his stuff. And I brought that gentleman into like the Sunday draw stream. You know, now he's a fixture there. You know, so he's over here with me. So it's like, oh, he's a great guy. He's also a great guy. You know, but it's like I'm introducing a little bit of like some of the UK people that I meet here and bring him to the American audience, because exactly, Adam, exactly. You know, because talent like that deserves to be seen.
Oh, I guess I better shut that off.
Oh, we've got a clip.
Yeah, I think he might be on now. Who knows?
We are here once
again. Is this live?
On somebody's project.
Is this live?
No, that'll just be the header video that you know.
Ah, right.
When you go onto
the
channel.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, no, and it's you know, and it's like I said, there's a great amount of talent here. and Adam is just like really a drop in the bucket. But they also deserve to have an audience outside of the UK. You know, they do. And then this gentleman over here, Pops Van Sant, who I've known for a couple of years since I got here. You know, he helps bring that to the forefront.
He's saying nice things about you, Rich. Anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? I have yet to pay him. You know, I got to pay him to say all that shit. You know, but it's like, you know, but yeah, no, he's great. He's great, and I'm really happy to know him he's a good friend. He's a good friend.
Cool. And when is that a live show or is it a pre-recorded?
It's a live show. It's a live show. Always a live show. No filter, live show, whatever the hell it's going to be.
And it goes live on. When did you say? What was the times?
Well, the draw stream. We invite a bunch of artists to draw whatever they decide to draw for like a couple of hours at 6 o'clock GMT. You know, Greenwich Mean Time, which is 1 o'clock in the afternoon in the United States on Sunday. And on Monday, he has the Monday Madness, where he showcases, some of the crowdfunding, and even does some release dates, you know, like the start of the Kickstarter campaigns on Monday night here would be Monday at 9 o'clock, but where he is, it would be Monday at 4 p.m. You know, and he does that. He also has a bunch of other shows too, but those are the main ones. And CromCon, he has an online convention once every month from Saturday to Sunday, and it's like a 10-hour show. He's literally broadcasting for about 10 hours a day.
That's hard work.
Well, he has guests from the UK, he has guests from the United States, guests from Brazil, you know, Spain, Portugal, everybody just throwing all over there. And CromCon every last weekend of the month. We're approaching the 25th one so far. He has one every month.
Wow.
And his last one, which just passed over the weekend, the audience was doubled from the one from before. So it's like it's growing, and it's also a really great show. Everybody has so much fun because it's just promoting, it's just talking about the comics that we love to do, and it's like, you know, and what's great about them, what's great about a lot of most, if not all, the people that are there, no one has any type of attitude. This is what's refreshing about the indie circuit, because no one has an attitude and no one thinks that they're greater than everybody else. You see, that's the only thing that I did not like about a lot of people that I worked with, a lot of pencilers that I worked with. There were some great ones that I worked with. I inked over Jamal Igle on Iron Fist and Wolverine and The Ray for DC Comics.
Yeah.
Jamal Igle, if you know who he is, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
He is a class act to the nth degree. He is a really, really great guy. I love him. I've known him for over 25 years. He's a he's a great artist. He's a good man, a family man. He's an awesome human being all around. I have nothing but praise for this individual, and he was a charm to work with. You know, and there was a whole bunch of other pencilers that are great to work with, but there were a bunch of them that were not. You know, but going back to the indies, you see, that's the difference between some of the pros and some of the indies. After a while, you get a big head. The indie comics, no matter how successful you are, you never get that type. I've never seen that type of attitude.
It is rare, you know? I think, in the indie scene.
It's very rare.
You will encounter them, you know, but they are the exception as opposed to the rule.
Yeah, they're definitely the exception as opposed to the rule. Billy Tucci, if you know who he is, you know, the guy who draws She.
Yeah.
Billy's outspoken in his political views.
He sure
but
is.
I've also known him for a good 20 odd years, and he was one of the guys that I worked with. Also, I worked for Crusade Entertainment, and Billy has always been a class act. He's always sweet. I've sat with him at tables. He greets every single fan with a smile. He talks to them for at least 2-3 minutes. And this guy could easily do a book for Marvel or DC, but he does his own thing. You see, that's what I love about the indie circuit. You don't have all of that angst, you know, all that like crazy competition, because we're all trying to support each other one way or the other.
Yeah,
especially when it comes to creating.
Definitely. I mean,
yes,
I've encountered that. I mean, I've been involved in the indie scene since 1994. But
damn, you're old.
Yeah, I am. But I've always found that. I remember when I first started doing comics, I had no idea what I was doing at all. I was clueless. You know, I was 22 years old or something.
Okay.
Went to my first convention in Bristol, sat next to, you know, people who knew a lot more than me, and nobody took the piss. And the stuff I was putting out, it was appalling. It was appalling. But nobody took the piss. Everyone just helped. Everybody just guided. I met a chap called Deck Baker, who was big in the indie scene back in those days, and he just gave me loads and loads of advice. Now, if that was like the pro scene, it'd be like, well, this is competition, you know, or whatever. But the indie guys just don't look at it like in that way, you know.
No, they don't. The pros look at it that way.
And it's great, and I love that. I love that about the indie scene, and I think it's the same in the US. I've met a lot of US indie guys, and there's a great scene over there as well, from what I can tell.
That is true. No, you're absolutely correct. It's the indie scene isn't. I don't think it's as plentiful. Excuse me. I don't think it's as plentiful as the UK indie scene. And Canada's catching up like crazy,
Right.
because you don't have the presence of Marvel and DC as much in the UK as you do in the United States. You know, and a lot more people, because they're regional in the United States, they're still trying to get into Marvel, which is funny because they hardly ever hire any artists from the United States. It's either from the Philippines or Brazil, and it's like, you don't get it. They're not going to hire you. Put something out for yourself. Just do it for yourself. Don't do this for them.
I do get confused sometimes when I see a lot of indie sites, and the work they're producing is very similar to what Marvel and DC are putting out. And I think to myself, why do that? You know, maybe that's just their thing and they love it, and that's cool. But I sort of wonder if they're trying to find a gap, you know, in the readership. Why do what, you know, a massive part of the market is already doing? Why not do something different? I'm not, for me, it's like, for me, there could be a part where it's like, there could be some artists, you know, a lot of indie artists are upwards in their 30s and 40s. There are some in their 20s, but a lot of them are around their 30s or 40s. And they remember the Image style. They remember some of the late Marvel style, and that's what they grew up on. And what you grow up on, you tend to gravitate towards a little bit. Yeah, totally.
You know, so I mean, it's like with me, my art tends to gravitate towards like old school, like Paul Smith, old school, like Paul Smith, X-Men, Paul Smith, Doctor Strange, that type. You know, but it's like I take it, and my style has evolved over the years. That you can see that there's an influence there, but it's now to a point where it's my own, but. And that's where some indie artists have to go. And I'm not saying that they're bad artists or storytellers at all. What I'm saying is that if you want to set yourself apart from what's considered a homogenized style, don't homogenize your style. You know, to think of some other way to do it.
There are a lot of exciting artists, even working within Marvel and DC, that stand out because they've got their own style. Daniel Warren Johnson is one that springs to mind.
What does he do?
He did this sort of comic book where each cover was a homage to a classic heavy metal cover from the 80s.
What?
So immediately, so you had Judas Priest, you had honestly, it was absolutely, what a great gimmick. Whilst everyone else
was cool, actually.
Covers, I'll have to find his stuff and try and share.
Please do.
He's gone from strength to strength, and his stuff it's got a very, very indie feel to it.
Love it.
Murder Falcon, the name of the comic, and even the name Murder Falcon. Do you know what I mean? Even that sounds ridiculous.
I love that
and
name.
it's like very gonzo comic. It's hard to describe his style because it is very different. I'm trying to just quickly go onto Google search to try and find.
See if you can find something.
I've
got a question for you, Rich, from Sam. Actually, he's saying, "What is in the frame behind Rich's head?"
That is a poster that I designed for when I went to uni about 7 years ago. It was a play called She Kills Monsters, and I was the only resident artist in all of the College of Staten Island that was actually a professional. And the stage director for the drama department, I had to take one of his classes because I was studying English, creative writing. And he's like, Rich, I got to ask you something. I go, what? And he goes, I need you to draw this for me over here. And I go, well, you couldn't get anybody else? And he's like, well, you are the only resident comic book artist in all of the College of Staten Island, so I figure I ask you first. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll do it. It's not like I had competition. So I'm like, yep, that's it. But yeah, that's what it is. It's pretty awkwardly placed there because it looks like I have a square head, so I got to move that thing. It looks kind of silly over there, and I'm like, holy fuck. He's right. I have a square head now. So it's
a mirror
like
on the back of my head. So don't worry.
Yeah, at least yours is dramatically stored. It's like you have a triumphant, heroic look where it's like with your frames going off into infinity. Where it's like, I'm a Dick Tracy villain. It's like it's all I am at this point now. Now I feel reduced. My God, way to keep me in check.
So
God, man.
While I was looking for that image to show you,
please
let's talk Is it INCANTESI? Is that your
INCANTESI? Yes, it is. It's a diminutive of the actual translation for little magic, incantesimi. But that's too many letters for me to write, so I'm like, fuck it. Let me just chop this in. And this was
a little bit about this. What's this?
Okay, the story is a young woman, a ballet dancer in Milan named Cassandra Rossi, discovers that not only does she possess vast quantities of mystic energies and mystic arts, she's kind of like a Doctor Strange, but without the broken hands. Right. But she's also the keeper of this sect of sorcerers called the Wrath. Now, the story behind that is that about 250 years ago, the INCANTESI were a small sect of sorcerers who were kind of out behind the scenes trying to help humanity. But this was around the time during yes, thanks, Pops. This is around the time, with the witch trials where they would take women and they would burn them at the stake, or drown them to show, hey, if she resurfaces, then she's a witch. Oh, I guess not. Well, we got it the right way. So it's like, well, this happened to a couple of the INCANTESI. And one of them just snapped and decided, no, we're not going to allow this. And they proceeded to rescue that particular part of the coven, and shortly after they had this incredible blood hunger where they just decided to go after anybody who would even think about going after anybody from the INCANTESI. But then they got into a frenzy and they'd started just arbitrarily killing humans at whim, and the humans that were trying to evade them, they dubbed this new sect over there called the Wrath. And it quickly, too many people from the INCANTESI went over to the side of the Wrath. And at the last moment, five remaining members of the INCANTESI managed to trap all of the Wrath into an extra dimensional prison. But that spell was not done correctly, so it has to be renewed every generation or two. Because it's Cassandra's turn now. But she feels differently from the other people who had to seal that prison. So we're going to find out at the end of chapter 4 whether she embraces this destiny to protect everybody or becomes consumed by it.
Right.
It's not, I'm not going to make this a hero's ending. Whatever hero's journey this is going to be, it's going to take a while. I mean, I have 4 chapters in. What
you expect, basically.
I don't want it to be anything that I expect, because then it just becomes your standard thing. I don't like it that way. I don't. And it's just, that's not how human beings are. We're fallible. It's like Cassandra here is kind of destined, if you will, to wield such great power. We're talking about something that can affect more than just a few square miles of something. We're talking, a lot. But I take it along the lines of how Jean Grey was when she all of a sudden became when she became God. It's like
the corruption of the power changes the character.
Yeah, well, and then she's and what the thing is that Cassandra's not Jean Grey. Jean Grey was already a hero. She was already established as a hero, and she already had abilities to deal with already as it is. She went from maybe moving books a few feet to be able to be warping reality as we speak towards the end of chapter 4. And she's not going to handle it very well, because when you have what's the cliche? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's most likely what's going to happen.
That's always an interesting story, isn't it? When you get someone who is, maybe not heroic, but someone you class as pretty normal, nice sort of person. But when they are tested, we see the changes. We see
some fail. Some fail. You see, over here, it's like you see her over here, just in these panels over here. She's expecting to just take care of business without any type of issue whatsoever. She's been at this, 3 days? That's pretty foolish, to be honest with you. And the person that she's attacking has been using her sorcery-based abilities for quite a little bit more time than she has. So it's like it's nothing. And if Cassandra defeats her, it's simply because of the sheer power that she has no idea how to control. And it's just because she's super powerful, it doesn't mean that she's unbeatable. I mean, I could see Spider-Man beating her in any type of competition. Well, it's the truth, because he knows how to take down someone like this.
Yeah. And
overconfident and stupid.
You don't want a character to be completely perfect. You want them to.
She's not perfect. That's the one thing. That's one thing that I can't stand about some of these books that I've seen. It's the characters are just too damn perfect.
It's so dull. It's so dull.
Stronger than Batman, stronger than Superman, better fighter than Batman. It's like can pick up Thor's hammer with his penis. It's really fucking stupid.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I know, right? There's probably a porn for that one too. It's like,
sure.
It's like that. But that's the thing. It's like I want to tell a more nuanced story. And what these newfound abilities will do to her, as a human being, and what she will change into.
This sounds like a really good character-driven type of story. The sort of stuff I like, to be honest. Thanks for that, Sam.
Thor's penis hammer. Restore the squid. Well, it's the truth. That's how a story needs to be layered. Especially if I'm going to do something along these lines like this, it has to have layers of how the person devolves, and the choices that the person makes, and the things that happen within that person's universe and reality, and how people around her react to what she does. And it's how a story should be told, really.
Yeah, you have a lot of consideration as well, Rich. I mean, you've thought about this a hell of a lot from the sounds of it. How long has this character been in your head? When did she start to form as a character?
In 2019, before I moved here to the UK, I was doing some live drawings and stuff on Facebook. They didn't have StreamYard yet, so I was only doing live shows. And I recently befriended on social media an actress from Italy by the name of Sofia Broccani. Now, she is a classic Italian beauty, and she asked me if I can draw a commission of her as a superhero, and I go, yeah, right away. And I go, what would you like? And she goes, I want to be a sorceress. I'm like, okay, fine. So I drew a costume and her likeness in a similar fashion to this, but a little bit more elaborate.
Yeah.
And it was right around that time I decided, what, I think I want to start doing self-publishing, because I'm really sick and tired of doing everybody else's crap. So I realized that a lot of the characters that I had were shitty. They were like shitty 80 retreads of like superheroes that were just way too much. I was like, yeah, this wouldn't work. No, it's going to suck. No, I don't like this character anymore. I hate everything I do. And then I go onto my drafting table, and there's like tons of paper, and I'm not even thinking about it anymore. There's tons of paper thrown all over the place, and I come across her drawing, and then the whole fucking the whole story just popped into my head. The base of the story popped into my head, and I'm like, oh fuck, because it was like. Now, again, this is not me saying that most indie books are like this, but there are some independent books that are idealized versions of either the writers or the artists. In some psychological way. And I'm not saying that anybody's like being. I'm sorry.
We see that. We see that. We see the
Yeah,
people
sometimes
project
there's
themselves
that.
into their characters. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I thought of this character and when I saw the whole story unfold, it was also a challenge to me because obviously I'm not a 22-year-old dancer from Milan who can manipulate magic at will. So I'm like, this will test me as a storyteller as well as an artist because I've had to do research, I've had to learn things, I've had to figure things out along those lines just to get that story together. But the one thing that I wanted to do, what sold me more than anything, was the look of the character. And as I said about Sophia, her look is just I can't replace her. I wouldn't be able to put another face on Cassandra's character if I tried. And it's like, the one thing I did was I told her, look, I'm going to take this and make this into a comic book. And she was like, are you serious? And I go, yeah. Can I get a few pictures of your face to make sure I preserve your likeness the right way?
Yeah.
So she's like, she doesn't say anything. And I'm like, fuck, I think I insulted her. And then all of a sudden, like about maybe an hour later, I get about I get about 100 pictures of her face with every single expression you could possibly think of known to man. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. And that's when I started. And it was like,
brilliant.
That was it. And Sophia's been there every step of the way.
There she is.
And she's wonderful. She really is. She's my muse without me wanting to try and bang her. You know what I mean? Because she's just such
your inspiration.
She's my inspiration, and she's such a sweet human being. She teaches acting to a bunch of kids now. She did a lot of Italian. She did a lot of stage in Italy for at least a dozen years. She toured in Japan for a while. Wow. And she's done some voiceovers for cartoons. She's very, very versatile when it comes to performing, especially physical performing. She's also an acrobat. She's also a gymnast.
Oh, that's
and she's just she's great. She's just so good. And every time I show her a page, she's like, I love it, amazing. Oh my God, I can't believe you did this. And I'm like, yes, I did. And she even has the original drawings. She also has the copies of the book and some of the original art, but
that's nice.
Cool.
She saved me in a lot of ways because this book saved me in a lot of ways because I was drawing this when I had cancer.
Yeah.
Right.
I was drawing this when I was undergoing treatment. I was drawing this when I had my surgeries. I was drawing this when I had the radiotherapy beating down on my neck. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but I don't know if you can see it over here, but I have an incision from the back of my... Look at that. I have from the back of my neck, back of my ear, all the way down to my clavicle. They pulled it open, and then and to get to my lymph nodes that had the cancer, they had to cut my neck muscle in half to reach in to get the 92 lymph nodes or something like that and pull them out. Yeah, fun stuff. And then it was all like scarred, which I asked the surgeon before he went in. I'm like, listen, man, how are you going to stitch this up? And he's like, well, we're going to do the bio glue and everything. It's going to leave a minimal mark. I go, no, put staples in. Put them fucking staples in because yeah, exactly. So when it heals, I want you to pull them out with pliers and go boom like this. And it's like, I'll get that feral thing and I'll have this mark over here, and I'll say, see if there's something wrong with my eye too, because then you could just cut like there and it'll be like, I just got into a fight, or it's like, well, I know it's like I was this close to getting the quickening, it's like, that's what I wanted. But he was like, no, we're not going to do that. That's not good. That'll be sepsis and you may die. And I'm like, all right, we'll do that.
Yeah, you don't want that.
But that book, and in a lot of ways, Sophia indirectly saved my life because if she didn't ask me to do that, I don't know if I would have done. I don't know if I would have put out a book, or even if I did, I wouldn't be very proud of it. Because it wouldn't have challenged me, because I would have just done something de facto, like I would have done something similar to a character that I created when I was a kid. That was idealized version of me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that. So I picked something that was so completely opposite of me. It wasn't even funny. And it made me a better artist, and it made me a better writer.
Yeah.
Because
and it kept you going, through those difficult times.
Well, yeah, it did. Yeah, it did.
It gave you purpose by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Meaning,
and
fantastic.
It did. And it kept me going, kept me alive. And it made me a much better writer and a much better artist, because I really, not that I didn't care about anything else that I did, but I truly cared about this. And it's just, I had to really think about how the story was going to go.
Mm.
And the one thing that I wanted to do was I want to make the story a human story. I didn't want to make it a superhero story. You know, it's just,
there's a lot of humanity in there. Yeah.
And one thing that was unexpected that came from this, I have a lot of women readers loving the book, and I asked them, it's like, we just love the book, and I'm like, well, why? And they go, well, it's two reasons. One, you're drawing her. Well, one, you're telling the story of her as a human being, and you're not having her tits all over the fucking place, the big booby shit. And it's like, look,
and she's like a real shaped.
Yeah, she's real shaped, you know. And it's like most women who've ever read it, they love the fact that she looks like an average human female. Yeah, she's fit, you know. She is a dancer. She has nice strong legs and all that. Maybe hips a little bit bigger, but it's like she looks like an actual female instead of one of those caricature Rob Liefeld bastardizations where it's like they have both spina bifida and osteoporosis at the same time. While the tits, but they're like this. They're not human, and it's like the boobs look like they're footballs, you know, rugby balls with the extra tip at the end. It's like, and they look like 12-year-old children. You know, it's like, and the hair is all over the place where it's not supposed to happen. I'm just like, what the fuck is that? And it's like that. That's what I love about the book that I do, because I try and keep it with a little bit of realistic elements. But at the same time, you know, there's the supernatural elements too. I mean, for issue 3, you know what? Can we look at some of the art for issue 3, the black and white art? Is there any way we can do that?
Yeah, we can bring that back on. Let's bring it back on. Oh, it's not letting me.
You see, the first issue we got to.
There we go.
Yeah, well, the first issue we had. The first issue we just had the character development. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like we set the story. I wanted to get everybody to know the characters within the 48 pages of the first issue, which I did, and it was somewhat tame. There were a couple of small spatters of a little action in the middle and then the end. Issue 2 had a little bit more. Issue 3 and issue 4 are going to be chock full of nothing but crazy action, and this is like some of it. It's like.
It's great stuff.
Yeah, just scroll through the pages. It's like, yeah, I'm pulling out all the stops for this one. All the stops. You know, it's like.
Looks like you're having fun there.
I am. She's being punched. Well, if you go to the next page, which is the page before this one, I think. The one, go the other way, if you don't mind.
That's all right.
Okay, that one. This one right over here. This is when she makes her first appearance, and she's just like, well, that's a nice little outfit you're wearing. And her aunt, who's her mentor, is like, Cassandra, she's really good at this. Maybe you shouldn't do this right now. And she's like, that's no problem. So it's like zap, and she thinks she gets her, and Cassandra has that look on her face. She's like, wow, I'm more powerful than I thought. When the other one's like materializing right behind her. And then she goes, tappity tap, excuse me. And if you go to the next one, you know, she's being punched through dimensions right now. She's just blasted her through alternate realities in the hardest way possible. Kind of like she's going through a cheese grater, and that shit hurts.
Yeah.
It obviously looks like it hurts. And then, you know, before she has time to realize where she is, she's slamming full tilt into those cement walls that they have in a lot of those Italian villas. That hurts.
Oh yeah.
That hurts. That's solid concrete. It's like bang, and it's like, okay, I'm kind of fucked now. You know, so it's like she gets her ass kicked. But then
this is the best commentary of an action scene I've ever heard. I have to say.
Well, it's the truth. It's just like she's getting her ass kicked. She's like, okay, I'm fucked now. You know, and then she picks her up and then casually liquefies the cement, and then she's about to wind up with the pitch, and she shoves her into the wall where it's like it's closing around her. And then, but you see, this is where it comes to a point where Cassandra's power is a lot more than what she even knows. And what happens is that's when she breaks through that hold, and then she punches the girl, and she lands on the stairs in the foyer. And the couple of panels that I have on after this one, is where she takes the stairs and she makes them grow teeth, and they fold on the blonde girl.
Wow.
And then there's a couple of other pages that I didn't show you yet, where she decides to like hover above the stairs and say, and she goes to the girl and she goes, "Why are you here?" And then the girl, then the blonde will say something stupid, and then she'll just decide to go like, terminal velocity on the stairs with her fist. So it's like, it's not going to be pleasant. A lot of it's going to be kind of really violent and really nasty, and it's going to be, and there's going to be a twist at the end of issue 3, which I've told maybe a couple of people. Issue 3 is going to set her over the edge in a way that is completely unexpected and rather horrifying.
So right now you've got issue 1 and 2 available.
Yeah,
is that right.
Issues 1 and 2 are available, and issue 3 will be out in May. As a matter of fact, I'm releasing issue 3 at CovCon the first weekend of May. I'm going to go live throughout that whole day, and I'm going to release it then. But I'm also going to have the Kickstarter. I'm going to release it then, for the people in the UK. But I'm going to have the Kickstarter. I think I'm going to release the Kickstarter on that day, or I'm going to release it like a couple of days after, like on the show that I'm on. But yeah, it's going to be that. And then the 4th issue will be October. And that's supposed to be the end of the arc. But then I have another 4 that I have to do as a continuation of that. And I'm thinking of doing something else along the same lines, but I have to figure out if I can afford the colorist and the letterer, because I'm going to put on something else. And I showed you, Shane, a couple of those drawings.
You did.
And I think I finally came up with a concept of that one in which we get the perspective of the villains. There's no heroes in that one. There's villains. It's kind of Scarface meets Chicago, if you want to put it that way.
Okay.
So
that's
yeah,
the movie, not the band.
Show tunes.
Both. Yes, show tunes, flappers, all sorts of stuff. It's going to be a little bit harder than that. But
and if people want to get those first 2 issues, where do they go? Where can they buy them from, Rich?
I had my Square store. I shut it down for a bit because I have only copies of issue 1 in softcover and hardcover. That's it. You can contact me through social media at any time. You can contact me on my Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Greystoke20. You can contact me on Facebook. I accept friend requests or messages from anywhere you want. If anybody wants an issue, they're 10 the soft cover is 10 quid. The hardcover is A4 size, 15 quid. And I take care of the postage, and I pack it really nicely, and I even include a couple of prints and a bookmark.
Cool.
For that. And of course, I sign every copy. So if anybody wants a copy of those, that's fine. I'll be selling them at the next bunch of conventions that I'm going to be at anyway. I'm going to be at Wales. I'll be at Wales. I'm going to be at Liverpool. I'm going to be at Wales for April 2nd and 3rd. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be at Liverpool. I'm going to be at London twice. I may be at Liverpool twice. I'm going to be at St. Albans. I'll be at Reading. And I think I'm going to be at Bourne. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But if I don't hit 10 conventions this year, I'll be surprised.
Well, we'll have to get you to come to ICE.
I'd love to. Send me the info and tell me how much a table is, and I'll just spring for it. That's easy.
We'll sort something out for you, mate. No worries.
Please, thank you.
We've got a few comments before we go.
Okay.
From an Englishman in San Diego.
Oh, hello, Leonard.
Evening, chaps. This is just reminding me I have to get around to inviting Rich onto my little effort on a Sunday. For those who don't know, Leonard's show, An Englishman in San Diego with a Cup of Tea. It's on every Sunday, and it's a great show. There are similar things to what we do, but also, as well as interviewing creators, he's big into the conventions. There's a lot of information about UK conventions, but also conventions in the States, as the name suggests. And it's a great show. Len's a professional. He does it properly. We just mess about. So
send me a friend request. And we can talk. Thank you. I would love that. Thank you so much. Wow. I'm honored. That is so cool.
Nice one. Nice one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I've grown my. I'm sporting a bit of a Jedi beard at the moment. I just keep on growing it because it's something to get hold of in the evening when
Englishman
I'm
in San
bored.
Diego. Is that a YouTube channel?
Yeah. He
Yeah.
does it
Give me a
live
sec.
on Facebook as well. He's been doing it for absolute years.
Yeah, he does a great job. He really does. What we got?
1 second, I'm trying to get it. That's what I meant, Rich. Also, yes, I got an Englishman in San Diego.
Yeah.
I just subscribed and I rang the bell for all the notifications, so we're good.
Excellent.
Yes.
Gnarly
Oh,
story
yes.
about your treatment.
Here's another thing too. Gnarly story about your treatment, Rich. Thanks, man. Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. And I received the good news that I was cancer free on Thanksgiving Day, the American holiday.
Right, wow.
So I was like, wow, that's apt. Yeah, can I have my stuffing now? You know, it's just like I didn't give a rip. I was like, good.
Not to be too flippant about it, but in many ways, if you're going to get cancer, at least you got it in Britain where the treatment's free. I know we spoke to Tess a few years, didn't we? And just the price in America of any treatment. Oh my goodness me!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness me!
I will. Let me tell. If I can tell you a quick story about. Well, I was talking to a friend of mine in the States. I was here. It was in like April of 2020. And it was right around the time I had my cancer diagnosis. I messaged her on social media because her daughter was a student of mine and she became my assistant. And her name is actually on a bunch of the credits that I did for some of the indie books that I worked on.
Right.
You know, and she's great. This child's also a bass player and she's toured on Broadway and she's all of 19. Right. So don't even. Yeah, I know. She's an indigo child. Her name's Catherine Machete. I'm plugging your name out there. So anyway, I'm talking to her mother and I'm telling her like I had this thing, blah blah blah, and it's like thank God for the NHS because the American doctors missed it. And then she decided to go. Well, maybe you just didn't have to go to the right doctor, or maybe you didn't pay for the right doctor the right way. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? You know, I'm sitting there and I'm just like. Well, yeah, I'm just glad that they found it and everything.
Yeah.
And then she decided to go on her thing where it's like, well, thank God, because, you know, when my friend went over to you know, this is in Staten Island, New York. So, yeah, not the most highlighted educational spotlight in the United States. This person comes, she goes, well, my friend went over to England for a week. She had a little bit of an injury and she went to the NHS and she had to wait 2 full hours before she was treated. And I'm like, did she have to pay for it?
Yeah.
She's like, no, but that's not the point. And I'm just like, no, it's very much the point. I don't know what you're getting at.
2 hours.
Yeah, she had to wait 2 hours, the poor thing. You know, but whereas in the United States, well, here's the thing, Ollie. Here's the thing. It's like, not only do you have to wait longer than that in your average American hospital in the emergency room, but since no one likes to get vaccinated, you know, you know, since a lot of people don't get vaccinated and there's a lot of beds are taken up.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people who are waiting to get into the emergency rooms and some of them it's like it's hard to do because there's so many people who are sick. You know, and it's there's that. And now I'm talking to this woman over and over again. And I'm trying to tell her that it's like, look, I'm not trying to say anything bad about American doctors or whatever it might be, but they found the cancer and the doctor that was there in the United States, they missed it completely. And then she just keeps going on in her tirade about how the American health system is better than the NHS. And I'm like, all right, look, you know, and then I go, look, did she have to pay for this service? And she goes, no, she did not. But it was the waiting and all that stuff. And then she goes, well, I guess that's what happens when you have free healthcare. And I'm like, first off,
it's not free.
Everybody here pays for the NHS through their taxes, which is something that the United States can easily do without any stretch of the imagination. And quite frankly, with 5 times the potency, because they have 5 times the GDP of most other countries on the planet. And I'm like, you can think, really, you can have Nirvana.
They can easily do it. We all know why they won't. We all know why.
Easily. Well, yeah, of course, you know, but they can easily do it. And I'm explaining this to her. And then she's just getting more and more defensive. And I go, you know what? I'm sorry that it doesn't fit your stupid effing agenda of how you feel about, you know, whatever politics you follow. And she went off. she's yelling at me, and she's like, I'm not even conservative. I don't believe in this. How dare you? The United States is better, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm not worried about the nationality of the whole thing. I don't care what she says. It doesn't matter to me what an opinion of anybody has, whether you're Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative. I don't care who you are. That's like a tenth of a person that you're supposed to be. But when I'm telling you something as a friend that I've tutored your child and I brought her into the fold with me. I even had her at a convention with me a couple of times. And she met my mentor. She met a whole bunch of people that I've worked with for decades at that point. And I'm confiding in this. She's the first person that I told outside of anybody else.
Oh, wow.
I told her. I didn't have a chance to tell anybody else. I told her. The first person I told, and here she is arguing with me over the validity of the NHS, over the fact that it's like, I don't know. Well, I'm telling her, it's like, I don't know what kind of fucking cancer I have.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to live past this year. And I'm here because of this. And it's like, how ignorant and how terrible a person can you possibly be? So I'm like,
oh man.
Yeah, I was like, that's it. I'm done. So it was like,
end of conversation, really.
Well, it was the end of conversation, and it was also the fact that it's like that persuaded me even more to get everything done that I had to get done, that I felt like I wanted to do. And again, this book saved my life. It did. It saved my life because it gave me a purpose.
We're glad you're still with us, Rich.
Thank you.
And we're glad that there's going to hopefully be a lot more books from you.
There will.
Thank you, NHS.
Yes. God bless the NHS. God bless the NHS.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have these books. We wouldn't have you, and we wouldn't have been able to do the show tonight.
There wouldn't have been a lot of people, because if it wasn't for the NHS, there wouldn't be There wouldn't have been a lot of people, a lot of kids who were treated for cancer, a lot of other people who were treated for all of the disease. The NHS takes care of that, and God bless the NHS for saving the lives of uncounted millions of British citizens. Truly.
Putting them into bankruptcy at the same time.
Tell you what, you sound like a Brit. You sound like a Brit. You've only lived here a couple of years, Rich, but it sounds like you've gone native, which is great.
Not yet. I am my crumpets yet and my tea. So it's
Have you got into drinking tea yet, then, Rich?
I'm drinking tea. Don't start. I'm drinking tea. I've been drinking tea lately. I've been getting off the coffee of late.
You take the tea bag out before adding the milk, don't you? And then you don't leave the tea bag in like we see Americans do.
Not just yet. I still do that once in a while. Oh boy, I am
just
culturally
a very strong brew at the end of it.
That is true. I'm still culturally retarded, but I plan. That's just me. I'm retarded in general. But thank you for having me on here, and thank you for indulging me for an hour and 20 minutes. I hope I didn't go past the runtime or anything.
We usually it's about an hour, but we let it go on if we're having a good time.
Okay, good.
We were
having
a good time tonight, and
yay! I'm happy
as well. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on, Rich. It's been
thank you, man. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I'm going to talk to you all again very soon.
Yeah, well, we'll catch you. Telford's just down the road where the Welsh Comic Con is. I don't know, Shane, are you planning to go there? I think
I'm helping out, so I'll be there.
Oh, excellent!
Definitely. Yeah.
Stop on my table, hang out. We'll snort some cocaine and have strippers and shit like that.
Who's getting the strippers? Who's getting the cocaine?
I'm getting both.
We'll sort that
I got the yayo. I got the connections up in New York. Gentlemen, you take care. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys around.
Company, mate.
All right.
I adore Dick.